Huh? No, I'm recording. What do you want? No. No, that's stupid. I'm not going to start off this episode with, "Hey everybody, hey cool cats and kittens, how you doing?" That's stupid. No, screw Carol Baskins. I don't give a damn. I don't even like cats. You see what my cat did to me? Yeah. There's no such thing as a cool cat. Yeah, shut up. Anyway, hey cool cats and kittens. Today we have the Nerf N-Strike Reflex IX-1 blaster. And if you're curious, we're going to be discussing how exactly this product went from being an idea to a reality, specifically the manufacturing processes and behind the scenes look as to how this went from being in somebody's mind to a real product I'm holding in my hand. All right, let's get to it. So first off, it's pretty obvious that this is mostly an injection molded plastic product. Well, every part I see, with the exception of the screws, is injection molded plastic from the outside. But let's get into it and see if there are any surprises for us. All right, so it is basically as I suspected, almost exclusively injection molded plastic. Most likely this is going to be an ABS compound. ABS is very, very moldable in complex, intricate shapes, and it also keeps its dimensions very well and keeps its walls straightness very well, and is also very colorable, repeatable. It's just from a molding perspective, ABS is really the ideal material, which is why most toys of any quality and of any detail, intricate detail, will be made using it. We do have a couple exceptions to the injection molded process. This is just a spring that was made using automated wire forming process. Basically, a straight wire comes out of a machine and a little die pushes it as it comes out and makes it wrap around into the shape, and then closes it up at the end, and that's pretty much all there is to it. Similar for this piece and this piece, all different versions of automated wire forming processes. This one just had to be cut to length, probably from a spool stock, wrapped up in a spool, just like you'd get an extension cord or something, but made of metal, and then they feed it through a machine and cut it to length. Pretty simple. So this right here represents, total of four parts made using some kind of a metal wire forming process, and then these are all of the injection molded parts. Nice, the screws are boring, don't care about screws. So, and each one has their own, I don't know if you can see that, it says B4. There's A1. It seems like all the ones with the same color start with the same number. A3. A lot of manufacturers do that just for their assembly employees to be able to look at instructions and say, oh, this is A1, that goes here, and this is A3, that goes there. Just makes things a lot easier to explain to a worker how to do. So because this is mostly injection molding, we can get into some of the more nitty-gritty facets of injection molding, which is, you see this is called industrial design, these the aesthetics that have been built into this, as opposed to this being just a blank rectangle. Bunch of little industrial designed parts to make this look aesthetically pleasing, give it a theme, if you will. But you notice every single raise or indent that's on the outside has to have some kind of a corresponding indent on the other side. And the reason for this is called uniform wall thickness. Uniform wall thickness is the basically the 10 commandments. If the 10 commandments only had one commandment, and if the 10 commandments were for injection molding. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, so the biggest rule in injection molding is uniform wall thickness is the gist of what I'm getting at. And designers and engineers will go to great lengths to make sure that no matter what cross section you cut through this part, if you cut through it with a virtual line, if you could imagine it, that you would see nothing but a single thickness everywhere. No matter where you went, it would be the same thickness. And on this part, it's around 60 to 70 thousandths, looks like, which probably translates into some exact millimeter, if I'm guessing. All these pieces are manufactured in Hong Kong, by the way. Hasbro owns Nerf. They're based out of Rhode Island, and their factory that makes all these parts is Hong Kong. But just notice all the there's a little aesthetic boss that's just there for industrial design purposes or for aesthetic purposes, but an engineer has to come in and to actually make this part. If he didn't indent that right there, that was going to be a thick piece of plastic. And even though ABS is a really good material for molding, if you have a giant thick piece of plastic right in the middle of a bunch of thin plastic, it's going to warp and distort, and you're going to see a sink right there, because this comes out boiling hot out of the mold. And so as it cools down, its molecules are going to solidify and align and restructure and become crystalline in some cases. This is an amorphous plastic. ABS is amorphous, which means it doesn't the polymers, instead of being in a structure, they're kind of all randomized, which is one of the reasons why ABS molds so well. But even with ABS that molds really well, you have to take precautions with injection molding so that parts come out the way you're expecting them to. If they had just left, see this right here, nothing goes here. So, and there was no parts that went right there. And yes, it does save plastic cost, material cost, to not have that be full. But the main reason is this part would just come out looking terrible if they didn't core that out. If they just left all of that plastic there, you would see sink marks and possibly cracking. And then you see how nice and flat this whole thing, it would probably do something like that, because all of that bulk of material cooling is just going to cool at such a different rate from the rest of the plastic, that over here is going to be nice solidified plastic and shrunken, and over here is still going to be hot and thick and unshrunken. And so that's what creates warps and sinks and visual defects and all kinds of stuff. This part, you can fudge it a little bit, but if you'll notice, this is a round shape is fairly uniform, but see how much thicker this part is than the rest of here? And what do you see? Can you see that sink? You see that, how that surface isn't flat? Right there. See how there's a sink in it? That is because they didn't core this out. Now it's a small enough piece, and a small enough noticed piece that's not a big deal. You know, it's kind of, you'd have to really be looking for it to notice it, but it's there. Even on a part, they've probably produced millions of these. Hasbro is probably one of the biggest injection molders in the world, and they got sink right there. But again, doesn't matter. This is like an $8 toy on Amazon. If it was a higher end product, I would really be disappointed in the engineer that designed these pieces. And if these were meant to be more of a functional product where the strength of this part mattered, then that sink indicates degraded mechanical properties of the plastic as well. But in something like this, not a big deal. In something more serious, that's a whole different story. But so that was a little dive into injection molding. This is a product that is only using injection molding. So in other products where they're using 15 different processes, I can't go in depth into each one. So hopefully this was a nice little deviation from that. If you like this episode, give us a like, subscribe, hit the little bell icon so you can receive updates when I post a new video. And comment, let me know what you liked, what you didn't like. And all right, I'll see you guys next time.